To this computer. All right.
Okay, then.
So tonight we're starting our workshop. It is a community discussion on accessibility in the arts. I'm just gonna quickly pull up my notes. So this is part of the New Brunswick Disability Art Collective workshop series. And we wanted to say thank you to artsnb for the funding for this project, because without this funding, I would not be able to do my work, and we're very grateful. So tonight we're going to talk about accessibility in the arts, which I think is a really important topic. So when people with disabilities aren't represented in the arts, we have to start asking, why is that? Um, so you know, as we're talking about this, I want us to think about like what barriers, you know, are you facing? What barriers are you facing to participating in the arts in your community, or in the arts, working in the arts, or participating in a gallery or an event? Um, so, like, I know for me, um, a lot of summer residencies are outside, and I have, because of medication that I'm on, I have a hard time handling the heat in an outside situation. So for me, um, doing these residencies outside is really really hard for me, because I don't tolerate the heat well, just because of medications that I'm on. Um, so that for me is a barrier to some opportunities that I would like to be doing. Um, so I'm going to put the question out. What barriers do you feel are making it difficult to participate in the arts, um, whether that's as a viewer or like in your discipline?
Well, cost is a big one, and
Certainly.
transportation would have to be my top two.
Absolutely.
Because getting around can be tricky, especially during the winter months.
And if you're using something like paratransit, or I don't know what all the different names are regionally, um, but it can be hard because you do have to schedule those things ahead of time.
Yeah,
So
well,
there's a lot of planning.
technically I can't use the ability transit because I can walk without any really aids.
Okay.
Unless, of course, it's post hip replacement and have to for the 2 weeks using the walker or the cane.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
But I do have a support worker, and but I only have her so many hours.
Mm. And it makes it hard to plan too, and you're kind of dependent on if your support worker has a vehicle or not, because they don't always have a vehicle, right?
Yeah, I'm lucky I have one with a vehicle. But usually, if it's during the spring, summer, or fall months, and it's local, I can usually use the bus to get around.
That's good.
I just have to time it just right.
Absolutely.
Although also in the time, like if it's in the evening, I get a little skittish about being out after
Yeah,
dark
it's
because
hard.
of those individuals that have morals that would make a outhouse smell like homemade bread.
It's
As a
true.
nice strong way to say it.
It can be hard. I know, like, I'm glad you mentioned like later in the evening. Like, some stuff that I found difficult is like I take medication, and sometimes my medication wears off before like before 7 o'clock, or before the evening. So I find like as we get into the hours in the evening, it's harder for me, if I want to participate at something like later, to focus and to be my best self, because I find like my medication doesn't always last that long. So it can be difficult just to do like later in the evening things just on the medication front for myself.
Yeah.
um I know, you mentioned too, like the financial barrier. Like, I think that's really interesting because, you know, it's, I know it's something we all think about, but like there's a lot of things that, we take for granted as well, that kind of affect us too. Like I know like paying, like if you're paying to ship work to a gallery, or if you're paying to frame work, I find that um, to be kind of a difficult expense for me. Um, and like paying to have photography of your work. So like if you want to have professional photos to send in or out to places, that can be a cost as
Yes,
well.
and also the cost for publishing and stuff.
Certainly. Also, if you're submitting poetry to competitions and stuff, sometimes they do take a fee as well. So like it to participate, there's like a fee. I know I was submitting poetry
Yeah.
for a little bit, and I found that difficult because I had to be really mindful of how many opportunities I was submitting poetry to, because I could only spend about like 20 or 30 a month. So I was doing about maybe one or two, mostly probably one opportunity to put into like poetry competitions and things like that. So I found that limited where I could submit to as well, just because I just didn't have the money for the cost. I,
Yeah,
I don't know if you found that with your work.
like knowing the. Of course, I haven't really went to submit it
Mhm.
formally
That's okay.
or going to publishing, but
Mm,
because sort of the old self doubt and that imposter syndrome
yeah,
beast.
that can be hard too. That can definitely be hard too. Um, so Uh, do we have other things we want to talk about? Our question was, I'm actually going to put these in the chat. Um, so that way we have all the questions in the chat. Um, and
Yeah,
I
no, I
can,
just gotta step. But
it makes it a little easier
sorry,
for us.
I gotta get some water.
Okay. Hey.
I
So, uh, now that we're back, I think Caitlin may be joining us shortly. But we'll see. Um,
okay.
so we'll keep going, and when she comes back, I'll put questions in the chat again, just because I don't think she'll get past messages. Um, so it's all good. So right now we're talking about, what barriers do you feel are making it difficult to participate in the arts? So like even as a viewer, or in your discipline. So like in like your writing, or just whatever you're doing, what's making it difficult. um I know a thing for me is sometimes it's not super apparent um where to apply for different opportunities. Like I know where I do a lot of different disciplines, I found it kind of difficult to know where to go. Um, like I know for visual art, I do know of a lot of opportunities, um, and I find some for poetry and writing. Although I'm not pursuing that as hard as I could be right now. I'm more focused on my art and music. And for music, I'm still getting a feel for that. I'm still getting a feel for that area, so I find it's not. I don't really know all of where I could be going. Um, so that's something that I found is like it's not directly stated. Like there is resources and things, but it can be hard to find them. So that's
Oh yeah, I agree. Sometimes in general, finding resources can be like you almost need a resource detector instead of a metal detector.
It's true. I think that's why we have community too, right? Is because a lot of us do share. Um, we're lucky because a lot of us can share within between ourselves and be like, hey, where do I do this? Because a lot of us have done things and we can just kind of pull from community experience, which is nice. So community's definitely
Yeah,
been a big asset for me. Um, oh, we have Caitlin joining us. I'm just gonna pop Caitlin in here. Hi, Caitlin.
yeah, yeah, audio's connected.
Oh, all right, Caitlin's here. Hi. You can unmute yourself, Caitlin. We're doing a discussion, so it's okay.
So don't unmute myself?
Oh no, yes, yes, unmute. Always unmute
Okay.
for this. Um, if I need you muted, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Because right now we're having a discussion between all of us, so it's not. Can you see the questions that are in the chat at all, or
Just one sec.
okay? If you can't, I can just pop them back in the chat. It's no problem.
Um,
Oh, excuse me.
no, I can't see them.
Okay, it's all good. I'm just gonna put them back in there. Okay. Um, so right now we're still kind of on our first question. We're talking about what barriers do you feel are making it difficult to participate in the arts? So that could be as a viewer or in your discipline. So like in visual arts or whatever you're doing as an artist. Um, how how is that like what barriers do you feel are making it difficult? So like even as a viewer, like I know I remember Isabel Votor had done a exhibit at the Playhouse, and she had hung her paintings lower, so
I
that
remember that.
yeah, so that more people could see them. And at the time, I had never thought about that because I was like, wow, like that can be a barrier because not everyone can you know see up that high, and some people are seated, and some people everyone's different. So I thought that was a really interesting thing, and I hadn't thought about the barriers that people face even accessing a gallery or accessing like a physical space, whether it's like an event or performance or gallery.
Have other people gone?
To what?
No, no, I mean, have other people answered the first question?
We have. It's a discussion. So you put whatever you can out there, and we're just kind of talking back and forth. This is kind of our back and forth thing. So there's not like super really any turns, but we are trying to not talk over top of one another. And I think we're doing well.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, so yeah, like Kaylin, is there anything that you've experienced, like just even accessing a space? Like what have you found in
So
your
I would say money, transportation, lighting,
certainly, yes.
um, and the fact that there's no quiet area or
Mm,
like not necessarily in a gallery because I'm hoping everybody would be relatively quiet, but if there was a lot going on, I might visually not know what to look at.
mm,
Like, like
yeah.
overwhelmed sensory wise.
Yeah, that's a really good point,
Mhm.
honestly. I know sometimes too, like even if you're at like an opening night, it can be a little hectic, so that is a good thing to have planned, in case people need a break from the sounds of opening night.
Yeah.
Because I know those do get really, really busy. Like there's usually a lot of people at gallery openings and stuff. So
And
that's a
I've
really good
never
point.
been to the Playhouse in
Okay.
particular, so it would be kind of like getting to know the lay of the land, so to speak. Like,
Yeah.
'cause like Elizabeth's, um, I'm blanking on her name, but the other artist friend that you just
Isabel?
mentioned.
Isabel,
Yeah,
yeah,
like everybody has a different style when it comes to art and
certainly.
presenting, so like knowing the plan beforehand.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if even knowing the plan of the building might be helpful depending on your needs.
It could be, yeah, like, and especially like how much physical space is there,
Yeah.
and if someone has um like not for me, but like if someone had like a service dog,
Mm,
is there any allergies to dogs and stuff like that?
yeah. How do you
And where
find?
would they go do their business?
Yeah, I wonder. How do you find the availability of accessible seating in different venues?
Um, I don't know that yet. I have not explored that, but I will get back to you on that because that is something I am exploring,
Yeah.
so I'll be able to kind of give you more knowledge on that. And also like where would you want to be seated is like another one because not everyone wants to be up front even if they're in a wheelchair or have a cane.
Yeah.
So, is it kind of like I like things that are like open concept and kind of you can like mingle with people as you're like doing an event. But and also for me would be comfort level, like
Mm,
how many people are gonna go there sick?
yeah. Definitely having like a COVID friendly or COVID aware environment is important for a lot of us with disabilities because, a lot of us are immunocompromised and, we can't afford to be sick because it could be really harmful.
Well, and especially like where the government is like they don't see COVID as COVID anymore. Like we
Hmm.
live with it, yes, but at the same time, nobody takes precautions. People aren't masking, and I
Yeah.
understand that like not everyone is able to. However, if you can, I believe you should.
100%. I absolutely agree with you because that makes spaces more accessible for everyone. So that's definitely important. And it is a barrier when, you're immunocompromised and you're like, I can't go to a lot of in-person things. I've
And they
found,
should have different masks, like the ones that you can see people reading lips and stuff like that. Like you can
oh,
see,
like face shields?
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
not necessarily like that, but there used to be ones that you could like the mask was kind of opaque or something, so
Oh, okay. It's like a
you could
clear
see
view.
if someone was smiling, you could see if they were trying to move their lips and speak.
That would be helpful, especially if someone needed to read lips, because that does happen. Um, so um we've actually kind of inadvertently addressed my second question, which is,
Oh, I'm sorry.
oh, no, this is perfect. It's all good. This is an organic discussion, so as we go, I just have these questions to guide us. And if we're getting there ahead of time, it means we're on the ball. Um,
Okay.
so what access issues have you faced going to a gallery, or participating in an in-person event, or even performing on stage? So we can talk about that briefly. I might share a little bit, and then, like, I know for me, it can be hard getting up on stage because sometimes those steps are big, like they're big, and like I use a cane. My back isn't good, and my flexibility is not good, and so like trying to get up big stairs, like get up stairs and things like that, or take like a really big step. I have to. I'm very lucky. Like my
Yeah.
spouse drives me to a lot of things, and he's there. So sometimes like I do get help up, and I do have like my cane and stuff like that. But sometimes it's like really hard to get up on things. I know, this isn't my story to tell, and Cass isn't here tonight. Isabel was telling us a couple months ago. about Cassandra. So Cass is an artist, visual artist, but also a comedian
Mhm.
here in Fredericton, and like how she was having difficulty getting up on stage with like her wheelchair and stuff, and I had never thought about that. I won't speak much on that because again, it's not my story to tell.
I
Hopefully,
can
Cass.
speak on my own story if
Certainly,
that's
yeah, I'd love that.
so the well, I found it funny, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
So I flipped out of my wheelchair getting up the ramp or trying to make a ramp because
Oof.
like the platform itself is not accessible. So
Yeah,
then I tipsy-turvied and I was fine. I was
that's good.
younger and I just laughed it off, whatever. But there's also a lot of awareness, like public spaces, like say you're going to an Imperial Theater or
Yeah,
an improv, like all those places that want to be inclusive should have at least a portable ramp
absolutely. Yes,
so that
absolutely.
there's been a lot of stories where, and this isn't necessarily arts related, but people go to get a degree and they can't actually go accept their diploma
Yeah,
because they can't get on stage.
absolutely. It's stage related, and sometimes those stages
Yeah.
are still stages that you use for performance. So yeah, it's a real problem, and I'm glad. I'm so sorry you ended up having a topsy-turvy moment because that would be, to me, that sounds like it would be super scary. And
Um, So it should have been like if I was older, then kind of realized what happened.
yeah,
It should like now I'd be like, oh, like that would be like an oh shit moment. Sorry.
yeah,
But yeah, but when I was younger, it's like okay, whatever.
yeah. I know we're lucky when we're younger, we can kind of bounce back, but as we get older, we're not as springy as we were.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
I will bring up because we are talking about theaters and stages and things. Slightly off topic, I will bring up not all seating fits everyone.
Um,
Like I know for me, I have a hard time, especially because theaters, especially older theaters, have smaller seats. And to put it nicely, my bum doesn't fit sometimes. I know. Carly and I have had this discussion.
yes.
We've talked about it a couple times.
So
Yeah.
how does that work? Do they give you a different seat?
You hope and you pray. So sometimes, so I know at the Playhouse, I actually book the same seat. If I go to a show, I book the same seat every time. Because there's a seat at the Playhouse that I know fits me, and it's usually on the ground floor. But I know the seats in the balcony, they may have changed them, but I don't know. Don't fit me in the balcony, but they do in the ground floor. So sometimes like I just book on the ground floor and I actually will book the same seat. Just I know they're probably all the same, but just on principle I'm like I know that one fit me. And I was happy sitting there, so that was okay.
Now this is
Another
a weird question.
yeah.
So does the Playhouse have like can you see online the seating
Yes.
arrangement?
Yes, absolutely. Um,
Okay.
I know a lot of places booking tickets, you can see the seating arrangement. Um, and I know like I do reach out to venues beforehand and stuff too sometimes to be like, hey, how are the seats? Or like I'll see if I can go in person and be like, look, I just need to sit in a seat and test if my bum will fit. Um, can it go here? That's the true question. Um, and seating is a big issue for me. Like obviously, like even in doctors' offices and things like that, because they have chairs with arms and those are awful. Or like I ended up at in an older theater in Sackville, and I didn't realize soon enough that the seats didn't fit me and the performances started, so I had to kind of like lean forward and I leaned on my knees and I hurt my knees really bad.
Oh,
So that wasn't great. Luckily they did have some like they'll have spaces where there's like a blank space, so I went out to the coat room and I grabbed like a chair after intermission and I sat in a folding chair after that, which was better. Um, but I have found that seating can be a problem too because like if it's uncomfortable for my back or if it's like I know yeah, not all theater seats fit me. So like I went to band camp
Mhm.
at Acadia and their theater seats don't fit me. But luckily they did have kind of like on the they did have spaces for like accessible seating. And they did have like a kind of a cement, I don't really know what to call it. It was like a cement block. So like I had sat on the cement block and then I
Now,
did
this is a really weird question, but
sure,
have you
yeah.
considered bringing your own? Because I find that works well.
I'd definitely be in contact with the venue about that for sure. I know some people do bring their own like cushions and stuff. Like if it's like if you're playing in like a band, or sometimes like if you have like provided seating somewhere, like even different. Actually, you just made me remember something. So during an art residency that I did here last year, I did bring my own chair. Like I actually packed a kitchen chair into my car, and took my kitchen chair downtown for a week. And I had my kitchen chair at the residency just because I was like, I know that this isn't gonna hurt my back and that this is gonna be comfortable, and that like the chair's not gonna break. Because sometimes some chairs aren't made uh, with sturdy stuff, so it's good to be careful, especially if you're a person who
Yeah.
has to worry about that. So yeah, that's my piece on chairs. But yeah, it's like that can be an issue for me, I find. Like you mentioned with lighting as well, like lighting can be hard, especially if it's really, really harsh. And if you're there for a long time, it can cause, like I know for me, I'm
It's
photosensitive. So
I find like I don't know if there's different seating you can get. Like sometimes there is, but like even if say like you were to go to a performance and then you had to go to a hotel,
okay.
like they may not even have like a bath seat available.
Mm,
So it's like, oh, do you have like a lawn chair? And that is sketchy as heck.
yeah,
Putting yourself in a little baby plastic lawn chair.
yeah. I don't fit lawn chairs, so
uh,
unless it's I do BYOC. I call it a BYOC situation, bring your own chair.
yeah.
Um, that happens a lot. Is there anything else we want to talk about with just access issues regarding spaces? So this could be in an art gallery. This could be participating at an in-person event, like we mentioned masking, and I think that was great. Or like performing on stage. We've definitely talked a lot about being in a theater, being in a venue that has like seating can be an issue. Getting on
One
stage
thing
is a
I
hard thing.
would need too, sorry, I just
It's
got
okay. No, no, no.
excited,
This is all good.
is a microphone that I could reach.
Yes, yes. They do
Yeah.
have stands that sometimes, depending on the venue, like they have stands that move up and down. But yeah, sometimes they have it on a podium and the podium doesn't move, and that's a problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I would have to plan that ahead of time. Like if I,
It's
well,
true.
like even like my wedding for example, I was like I don't think I need a mic. Do I need a mic? No. But like because I'm loud enough, but it would depend if say I was doing like a Toastmaster session with like a
Mm,
hundred people.
yeah,
I Somebody in the back or front may not hear me.
it's true. It can be very hard to project. And if there's mics available, you shouldn't have to project either. Um, and I know it can be hard too because sometimes if a mic is set up somewhere, it's not always something you can pick up and move. Um, Depending on the AV people and things like that. So it's good to, it's like you mentioned, it's good to talk with people about it and be like, and tell them like, hey, I need this so they can plan ahead.
And do people at like art galleries practice to use a mic? Because sometimes there's people that either talk too quickly
Mm,
or they talk too um fast or slow or they're breathing in the mic while they're trying to talk. And
um,
then there's like, you know what I mean? There's
I do have an answer for that a little bit. It's a two-part answer.
okay.
Um, not specific to galleries because I don't know what galleries do and don't do, but I will say, from my experience with microphones, I know microphones have a pickup pattern. Not everyone understands this. Different microphones pick up differently, and they each work for different situations. That's more than we need to worry about, but typically, when you're using a microphone, it's cardioid. I think they're usually cardioid microphones that we use for speaking into. So it's like a little butt, is like a little butt that goes like this. So it's like a heart shape, and it kind of picks up around it. So, but people will put them too close, and if they don't have that fuzzy thing, the fuzzy thing on it, it's either fuzzy or foam, whatever. It's called a windscreen. Um, if it doesn't have that, you'll hear a lot of people with like like the sound or
Yeah,
like
it'll
the
sound like
sound.
whistling or
Yeah, you'll pick up pops. That's why it's called a pop filter. Um, so if you don't like you can see with my microphone here, it's got a foam on it.
yeah.
That's a pop filter. Because it will. I won't take it off now because it'll sound awful. But um, they will come off. And anyway, so that makes it so that you don't. So that you say it, don't spray it type of deal, right? So it doesn't pick up
Right.
all your F's and P's and S's and stuff. So
Well,
it may be a limitation of the technology. I know some people also, me specifically, like I do need to be told to slow down when I talk because I know I do talk very quickly, especially if I'm excited or nervous or both. It's worse if it's both. Um, so that is something for a lot of people to keep in mind. Like, yeah, definitely you might need to like not slow down like dramatically, but try to talk at a pace that makes sense for people. Um, it's because it can be hard to process, especially if you're not having a great day, when people are just zipping.
So I have a trick like for that. You think of like a music beat. So
Okay.
you're like you go bump 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 talk bump bump and then you're
Yeah.
like, that way you're at like a nice level so that you're not talking like a grandmother, but you see like I just slowed down
Yeah.
and then you can pick back up.
That makes a lot of sense, and that's a really good tip, and I'm really appreciative of
yeah.
that. It also might get rid of some of like the ums and the ers and the uhs if you're presenting, so that's super cool. Um, uh, So I do have a couple more questions.
Okay. Sorry.
So, oh gosh, no, this is good. I'm just kind of going through my list as we're kind of as each topic kind of finds its natural end. We're just kind of we're popping between them. We can pop back to if something happens, like if something pops in your brain and you're like, I want to talk about this. We can always go back. It's no problem. Um, so I have it's kind of a two-tiered question here. What complications do you face trying to balance working in the arts with managing your disability? The other part of the question is like if you're trying to balance working in the arts with being on a social program. So I know those are two separate questions, but they're kind of I don't want to say they're similar, but they're like, how are you balancing your disability in trying to work in the arts or trying to participate in the arts, or how are you managing if you're on a social program? Like I know that does limit us as well with the type of work we can do because I find like for me art is super great. It can be super part-time. It can be like as you're able to do things you can do them and then you can take breaks when you need to, so it's like there's a come and go, which I really really like. But I know for me, I'm only on Canada Pension Disability, so I'm allowed to make I think the yearly amount right now is 6,800 per calendar year. So if I make more than that, in addition to what I make on Canada Pension Disability, I have to call them and say, "Hey guys, we got a problem." Um, so that can be hard. It can limit what you're able to do, especially if you're not making enough sales to fully support yourself on your art, or if you have like a super, uh, I don't know the word, come and go disability. There's a word for that.
Episodic?
Like a
Yes,
flare up?
yes. Episodic. There you go. If it's episodic, it can be really hard
Yeah.
because sometimes you're okay and other times you are not fine. So that's what I struggle with is like sometimes I'm okay and sometimes I am really not okay. So it's trying to balance being okay with not being okay and then balancing so like the taking care of myself part and the being able to participate in things. So like we have all these other barriers, but also like just having the ability and energy and wellness to go actually do the things in the community or in events or things like that. So that's something that I find really hard. And then on top of that, like you have this whole layer of dealing with the social program where you're like, well, I kind of need the social program, and it can be really
Yeah,
hard when you're kind of outside of like when you're kind of trying to make money, but you're dealing with a social program, so you can only do so well. But like you could do better, but you might not be able to sometimes, and it's a yes and no, so it's a very hard to deal with. I wish I
yes.
could explain it better.
I understand what you mean. It's like trying to walk a tightrope with a safety net that is strained and ready to fray or fall apart in 2.7 seconds. Kind of
100%.
like, with the current social assistance, it still has a lot of upgrades from uh, old style stone tablets to a more modern version.
And it's hard, like you're saying, it's hard because you can lose support, right? Like you can lose different supports that you have as well. So it
Well,
feels
and at the
complicated.
same time, like one of the biggest things for me is like right now with social assistance, and
Hmm.
even when you're working, like say if you make a good amount but you need a caregiver to take you to an event or something,
Yeah,
they're like, okay, even if you need 4 hours a week, your copay's $800. It's like,
yeah,
what? Because you'd be better off paying like 20, 25 bucks an hour to someone privately. It would still be cheaper than paying, $800 a month.
yeah.
That's just robbery because the government wants to get a piece.
It can be really
Yeah,
difficult.
So, especially like I was talking to someone and they're like, I already pay for, um, they needed help, getting their driveway done. Then they needed help with their garbage. Then they needed Meals on Wheels.
Yeah,
So they're like, by the time you pay for all those little things, it adds up. And you can't, like, yes, they make a good income, but if you're retired, then that's it.
yeah.
Like, so,
And it's
and
definitely, like you
if you're
mentioned,
older, you shouldn't have to, well, even at our age, but
yeah,
especially when you're trying to like worry how you're going to take care of yourself,
yeah,
we didn't choose to have a disability.
exactly.
yeah. And those that decided that 65 everything magically disappears needs to lay off the cactus juice.
Yeah,
Those are
Well, yeah.
the delusions.
it's definitely difficult. It's definitely like a difficult, like Carly was saying, it's a difficult tightrope to walk.
Oh,
Um,
definitely. And then and when you're an entrepreneur or a sole proprietor, like whether you're a sole proprietor or a partnership or whatever, you're not guaranteed that income.
yeah, it's
So
true.
it's also like if you had to pay somebody, if I wanted to go to a craft fair and pay like somebody so that they could like sit with me in case I needed something or whatever, you're
Yeah,
not even guaranteed to make your money back.
it's true. It's true, and it can be really hard to forecast what you need and what you will make and what you will spend. So it's definitely a challenge there, especially because like even in creation, like it can
So
be really
how do
hard.
people manage that in the arts? Like, is there
I To be honest, I don't have a good answer for you. Um
okay?
I wish I could. I wish I could be like, yes, they do this and that. I don't have a good answer because I think everyone's answer is going to be different. I know for me, I do try to cut costs by upcycling as much as I can because not only is it sometimes cheaper, but it's good for the environment because you're creating new things. Um, so I find that helpful. Just it saves me a little bit if I'm
So upcycling is you take something you already have and
yeah.
then you turn it into something else.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that can be a few things too. Like I'll mention like you could yeah, it could be anything. Like maybe you broke a dish and you're like, well, I'm gonna use the pieces that are safe and try to make something out of them. Like you could use those pieces in a mosaic, or you could, depending on what you do. But um, or like you can sometimes, like, I actually will save brown paper from packages, and I use it for different things. Like I'll actually use it to put underneath things when I'm painting, or like therefore I was saving cereal boxes. I'm not doing that as much because we don't really eat a lot of cereal now because it's expensive. But when we were able to afford cereal, we I would save the boxes and I'd use the boxes for different things. Like I actually use cardboard as a paint palette sometimes. Um, or
Or the flyers you get in the mail, do you use for like paper mache?
I don't do a lot of paper mache, but that is a good idea. Like you could use them for paper mache if that's what you
Okay.
do. Like I know I do buy used stuff. I know that's super strange to be like I bought used paper. Um, so my fun story with that is I I animate by hand, so I can do paper animation. Sometimes I do it. I think it's hard to come by the paper. It's special paper, and it has special holes punched in it to fit on these peg bars that they're not like a three-hole punch. There's a long hole, a regular circle hole, and another long hole. And that's so that the pages don't move when you flip through them as you're animating. So I actually went and bought it can be very expensive because there are only, I think, two places right now to buy animation paper. And one is in the States, I think one's in the UK. And the places that do sell it here are actually mostly getting it from the one place in the States. So it's cheaper to buy from this one place in the States. But uh, it's paper's heavy. So if you're buying a lot of it and you're shipping it, your shipping is going to be real expensive. So what I did was I actually went and bought secondhand animation paper. So it wasn't like used per se, like it wasn't like drawn on or anything, but it was just someone was cleaning out their stash. It was used as in the package was open, and I got a bunch of just different. They were slightly different grades of paper, and I got a bunch of paper. So I got it secondhand. Or like I had a project where I had to have a lot of white tulle, so it can be really expensive to buy by the bolt, and it was wedding season, so everyone was selling all their white tulle that they had draped their arches with and stuff, and I was like, cool, I need this to cut up, and it had already been washed, so it was all nice and soft. So it worked out for me. I didn't have to wash tulle, but I saved a little bit of money because I could buy these bolts of white tulle secondhand. So like there is that. I know that's kind of cost saving for me. Or just buying I mean, and it's normal to, if you're planning a picture or a painting or whatever, to go out and buy only the paint you need beforehand, or you know what colors you're going to use. So you do try to like buy a little bit at a time. So like I guess um that's that. I mean, there is resources and things like on the music side where if you need uh like like another instrument or something like that, if you're replacing your instrument, um like Long McQuaid offers sometimes throughout the year they'll have different 0% finance deals, so you can finance, which it's good and bad. Like, like it's nice that they do that. It's hard because not everyone's able to finance, so there's that, so you don't have to pay all up front. I Secondhand instruments really cut the cost of buying an instrument, which is good because some of them are very pricey. So if you can find them secondhand, you save a lot. And like there are programs like through artsnb, they do have I can't think of the exact name of the program, but they have a program where like you can apply for as an emerging artist for like equipment, and you can get some funds available to you if your grant is picked to pay for like a capital purchase. So like uh, just different things, not just music instruments, but like it's all listed in the grant material. But so there is that. So like sometimes there's grants, sometimes there's like the Legacy Fund has microbrocheries available. So like there's small funds available for things like that too, which is good. And they have a list of what those funds can be used for on their website. So there's that. So there's some granting that you can do. A lot of it I tend to do secondhand. I know this is a really rambly answer. I wish I had like a succinct like do this. Um, so it's you get what you can. I mean, you can trade art supplies with other people too. Like if you're like, hey, I'm not doing this anymore, you can put a call out and be like, hey, I want to trade. Or like I know if you're doing like fabric painting and you're like, I need scrap fabric. Well, there are people who sew and they have a lot of scrap fabric, so you could put a call out and say, hey, I need scrap fabric, and they might send you some scrap fabric, or you trade them stuff like uh, whatever helps. So it's a not a easy answer for sure. It's complicated. Like there's a lot of different things, and everyone's going to be different based on what they're doing. Uh,
Yeah, what about you, Carly? Do you like do you ever like recycle paper that you write like a poem on if you mess or if you like made a mistake on it, would you still keep it?
And sometimes, if I don't let that pesky inner critic be a royal pain in the caboose, putting it as nicely as I can. Or I could have just said, you know how the inner critic can sometimes make being super constipated look inviting. I
yeah,
know that's a funny-ish way to describe it without saying the bad word.
yeah. I know some people will reuse canvas. It's really really normal to reuse canvas. So like if you painted something and you're like, and it was a while ago and you're like it's not selling, um, or you just didn't like it because that does happen. Um, you can paint over it.
Yeah,
Um,
so that was
mhm.
super weird. So this is, I've never heard of this before. My
Okay,
friend would get like canvases on Buy Nothing,
okay,
and like people would just be getting rid of whatever, and she would take them and then she would like use white and then like paint over them. But
yeah.
I thought originally when if you
Well,
used a canvas and you're like painting on it, that like the paint would stay so you couldn't like paint over it.
um, I think you can always paint over it. I know some people will sand them a little bit, and then repaint them. Uh, it does happen. Like it's actually pretty normal to reuse canvas, even if it's your own paintings, or like if you found canvases on like a buy nothing, or sometimes you find them at Value Village and it's very very cheap. Because gallery canvas, there's different types of canvas, right? Like um, the stuff that you buy from dollar store is it's the width of it is very very small. I know sometimes some galleries will only allow like a gallery canvas, so it's got like a thicker edge to it. So they'll only allow like a gallery quality canvas to be there because like they're selling work. So they do have like a certain quality they want, but so it can be very expensive to put things on a gallery canvas versus right? So if you have a painting that didn't turn out, or you do find something and you're like, well, it's very cheap compared to what the actual cost for gallery canvas is, and you're like, I could paint over this, you might consider that. Like it does save you in the long run. Um, it is good to try to keep track of like the cost of things too. Like I know even like if you deal with like a lot of yarn or things like that, I actually will put down like I have Excel documents that I put down like the cost of like my materials and stuff when I bought it so that I can track what it costs so I can price things a little bit better. um that way I know um just kind of how much I should price things in terms of material cost and versus labor cost and things like that. um so there is that too. Uh is there anything else that we want to bring up, guys? So we're thinking about accessibility. Uh, we're thinking about um, like just like participating, like even if you're just participating in the arts in your community or things like that.
Or yeah, like y- what you said is really good. You might be able to put a call out and
Yeah.
say, you know, I'm looking to do this project.
Yeah.
Funds are limited. Does anyone want to get rid of some things? I'd be happy to take it off your hands.
Yeah, or even trade. Like sometimes people trade things, and it's really fun. I think that's why having like a community group is like a community art group is so important, because we have a community to kind of fall back on, and it's other people who are doing things that are possibly similar to you that you can say, hey, how are you doing this? Or hey, I need help, which is really really good, especially where we have disabilities. It's important that we have solidarity and that we're together and
Yeah.
working with one another, because we have better support that way, and we can share resources like you're talking about, Caitlin. Um, so yeah, that's all the questions I've had, guys. If there is things that you want to talk about, if there's things that kind of popped up in your mind and you're like, "Hey, I want to talk about this thing," hit me with it now.
Have you ever like this just seems artsy and creative to me.
Sure.
Have you ever like taken apart an instrument and then used part of the instrument for like a
No.
painting or an abstract or
I know people do, because there are um some instruments aren't able to be fixed. Um, so they might do that. If its life has kind of run out, or if it's in a situation where it's not worth fixing. Um, I personally haven't. I haven't really run across anything that's in that state. Or like I haven't gone on my way to find anything in that state. So, um, it's I know instruments are kind of complicated, because like it depends, like, because some things are still salvageable and some things aren't. So it's definitely a line with those, and figuring out, like talking to a service person and finding out, because service people are really nice and they'll tell you what can and can't be done with any particular piece, like what if it can be fixed, or if it's worth fixing. Um,
well, even like take your glasses for example.
okay,
Like you could either paint them like Frosty the Snowman.
that would be
Like
cute.
that that would be cute if someone had like an old pair of glasses and like dressed it up like a little snowman. I think that'd be adorable. But anyway,
Yeah,
but and then you could also like recycle like if they don't fit someone's face anymore for somebody low income, they may like I have given like 3 pairs of frames like because I've been a glasses wearer for a long time when I actually um can get them cleaned. But anyway,
yeah,
that's another issue. But yeah, I'll like give away my frames if they don't
yeah.
fit my face, and then I'll be like, can you let someone have these that are lower income, and then all they'd have to pay for is the lenses.
That's a really good idea. That makes it a lot more accessible.
Yeah.
Um, so I think um that's kind of it for questions, guys. I think
Yeah.
I feel like we've definitely covered a lot. Like I know, I find it really interesting. You and Carly actually, before you came, Caitlin, Carly actually said some really similar stuff. So I thought that's cool. We're kind of landing on the same challenges. That was cool. Like we talked about like the cost of transportation, and we talked about a couple of other things, so that was super cool. And yeah, it's definitely interesting hearing like where everyone is coming from, and their stories. So
Oh,
thank you.
one more question.
Sure,
How
yes.
popular is like, do you have your phone? Thanks. Is like a virtual gallery.
I don't know. I don't know. Um, it could be interesting if there are places that have a virtual gallery to reach out to them. Um, and they might have better insight into that. I know I don't have an answer. I think, I actually that brings me to the thing. one of the things that I have planned upcoming is in lieu of doing a physical gallery, because like shipping work is hard, getting people to have transportation to the place is also hard. Um, I was going to do a virtual artist talk. So what I was planning in February is, so this would be probably towards the end of February. I'm still kind of solidifying a date. I'm kind of going back and forth with a couple of people planning some stuff. So what it is we have people who are doing, feel like artists or performers or poets, anybody who's doing art, who has a disability that wants to kind of pitch or present. Um, they're gonna give a 5 to 7 minute pitch. So basically, they're talking about their work, so and their values. So it's like a evolution of artist statement and artist bio. You're talking about who you are and what you do, but in front of a presentation of your work. So basically, you're picking. I had said 3 to 5 pieces. If people have more pieces and it fits in that 5 to 7 minutes, like it's all good. People can have their presentation of pieces and they can talk about themselves and their work. So I thought that's cool because there's two things we can do with that. What my goal is with this is it's something we can have recorded, which is cool. So we can have that, on the internet. We can show that to people later, which is great. It's always good to have things recorded. But at a presentation night like that, you're pitching to people and you're talking about your art. So like we have the live artists with their art talking about it. So we get a little more insight into the artists. We get to connect with them a bit more. And at the end of the night, we can have questions about to the artists from people asking about their work and what have you. So this is kind of my I don't want to say solution, but this is my thoughts on a way that you could do something virtually. And I thought it could be cool because it puts the artist with the work, which I think is really important, because my goal with this is to tell stories, is to tell people's stories, and to show like these are the artists creating this work, and these are the wondrous things that they're doing. So
And one thing that could be really cool is like if you had like a week or two or like a month or whatever, and you like feature artists, and then if they have like a Facebook page, you could like promote local artists and be like, this
Yeah.
is someone's story. So you'd be like, meet meet Carly, a poet from Moncton.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, like so
yeah,
like a little bio, and then if she came up with a poem and then someone liked it and wanted to like print it on a canvas, then she could either do it or give them permission to do it, and then they would pay a certain amount of money because like the rights belong to her because they're her words. Like that's just
yeah,
an example to use.
I, yes, I know what you mean. I've actually wrote a somewhat of a New Year's esque themed poem.
Yeah.
okay,
It kind of came to me, and I shared it with a friend at writers group. Would you like to hear it?
sure,
Or sorry, I'm not running this.
that's all good.
Yeah.
Okay. As the new year is getting ever closer and pressing onward towards our hopes and dreams, we need to remember to pause to see how far have come so far. Since while we strive to go ahead, we often use up a lot of our mental energy trying to stay motivated. But if we sit down and appreciate how far we come, it can feed the flame of motivation to keep moving forward.
That's really good.
That's fabulous. I love it.
Yeah.
So I think on that fabulous note, we should probably wrap up.
Yes.
I'm gonna take a minute and I'm gonna talk about some stuff we have coming up, and then I'm gonna stop our recording.
Okay.
So, firstly, I want to thank you, Carly and Caitlin and Samuel. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. I just want to say thank you again to artsnb for the funding for this project. Without this funding that's instrumental in creating this work, I would not be able to create this workshop series and do this residency, so we're very appreciative. Um, so upcoming, we're coming back on the, I'm actually going to pull this up really fast because we have a presentation on the 25th of January on Access Riders by Isabelle Vautour. So that's going to be at 7 p.m. on the 25th of January. And then we are planning our last workshop will be on the 22nd of February, same time, 7 p.m. AST. And so that's kind of our upcoming. We still have community nights, and that's every Friday at 7 p.m. So that's kind of our upcoming stuff. So I'm going to stop our recording.